Harbor Freight store.
There we go. There we go. I had a deep thought on my on my mind right during the transition, and then I'm just like, "We're live, you idiot!" All right, how's it going, guys? It is Zerilath here to do the book thing again, which you know, one always hopes that you're just interesting enough to keep someone's attention in a large-scale manner, right? I get the trickle in of the subs. Thank you so much. And, when people don't like you, they have to come up with excuses why they don't give you time of day. This is when you cut people the fuck off. Because you ultimately don't like the dishonesty. You don't like the cold interactions, so on and so forth. So you ultimately get done with it when you're the kind of guy that doesn't give a fuck anymore about being liked or being cool, right? You know, the villain arc, the heel turn, all that fun shit, right? Because what do? I do this. I'm basically invited people to a book club format. Plenty of people are interested in a book club format. It's interactive with me in the chat room. The people that are paying attention, they get the self-evidence of the value that is delivered in real time over stuff that is very, very hard to understand, that matters because of what's hidden in it, and exposing it in such a plain manner kind of makes it easier for people to unpack because of my mind, how I do it, what I see, what I notice, what I pick up on, what I learn, what I know that I don't know also matters. To pitch that out there, to be like, here's a mystery just discovered that is significant because of the context of the statement. And to pick up on things that other people who read the book and know it, or say that they know it, say that they read it, they didn't pick up on that. Right? Because if you don't have enough content, enough context about it, it ends up being gibberish, right? I bring very interesting knowledge sets from my time doing this stuff, right? When you've been in this kind of podcasting field since 2012, like I have, being deeply engaged in the passage of time, right? In watching, things happen, right? I mean, to me, the 90s, even through the last 25 years, almost felt like one fucking period of time, right? Because everything was about sustaining what was established in the 90s and letting it fall apart by its own indulgences. And I don't like the way the people that care about saving it are saving it. And the people that are destroying it are doing no good in the manner in which they're destroying it. And that's exactly how the Babylonian Talmud fucking reads. Which is why we're reading it. Which is why it fucking matters. Which is why you're going to pay attention. And which is why you're going to decide that you either do like me or don't like me. Because I am a delight to watch and listen, to read this stuff. The jokes. The fucking jokes are there too. I mean, this isn't like some serious... I mean, it's serious. But it's just fucking human, man. Does it need a fucking genre? You're fucking bored? I am exciting. I am entertaining. I am engaging. Ask me a goddamn question in the chat room. Care about me. What the fuck with you people? And please, leave me a like before you leave. I'm just trying to earn a foundation in an authentic manner. I'm not trying to establish a business that has a YouTube channel. I am too off the hook. I work solo because I'm really comfortable being myself, and myself, I know, is chaos in a certain manner. I really ride That's Scorpio ascendant Uranus retrograde in my chart. It's matured a lot, but listen, man, I'm going to be striking that tower all the time, right? I've got the heretic in my human design chart. All right, so enough making excuses for why I am so awesome. Rabba saw that Abaya, Abi, I don't know how you pronounce the name right. It's just like a lot of these names I keep, because is it a long vowel? Is it a short vowel? That's ultimately the question, right? And then when you got two vowels put together, right? So, Rabba Abai, I'm going to say Abai, which sounds like obey, was, one Friday, looking toward the east to calculate the duration of twilight. Said he to him, "Dost thou think the masters spoke of the sky in the east? They spoke of an object in the east that reflects the red sky of the west, like a window placed eastward of the setting sun. It takes one to walk half a mile," said Hanina, "if one wishes to know the time according to Nehemiah." Let me double check here. I am unmuted. Yeah. I'd hate myself if I literally went that far. And I did check. I just forgot that I check because I'm focused here. He could leave the sun, see it come on top. Okay, it takes one to walk half a mile. Time according to Nehemiah's calculation. He should leave the sun, see it set on the top of the Carmel, a certain mountain peak on the seacoast, go down, dive into the sea, and go up the mountain again. This will give him the exact time. Yehuda, however, in the name of Samuel said, to know the exact time of twilight may be fixed thus. If only one star can be seen in the sky, it is yet day. If 2 stars, it is twilight. 3 stars, it is night. And also, we have learned plainly in Eboretha, with the addition, said Arios, the stars mentioned do not mean the big stars. That can be seen as in daytime. I think I read all of this last time, but that's fine. We're making some overlap. And not the small stars, which cannot easily be seen at night, but stars of medium size. Right? Like, they're so meticulous about all this shit, but at the same friggin' time, like it's medium. So what's a fucking medium size? How the fuck are you measuring stars medium? Right? Like, it's just ridiculous. These are people that are just like, for fuck's sake, I'm driving myself crazy being committed to any level of this. How much time do I have? Because I really want to squeeze as much out of my fucking Friday as possible. Right? Arios B. Zabhaida said, if one unintentionally performs work on both sides of twilight, Friday and Sabbath, he may certainly bring a sin offering because at one of both times it was certainly Sabbath. Rabbah said to his servant, you who are not an expert in the scholarly calculation of time must light the Sabbath lamp when you see the last rays of the sun on top of the trees. Okay, so here he is. He's being the guy to actually say, you can't be precise enough. So do it at this time for you because you can't measure it like we can. In cloudy weather, how shall it be? The lamp must be lit in the city when the hens go to roost, in the field when the ravens fly to roost, or when the mallow shrub inclines its head to the west. So, that's like, so they're going with certain animal behaviors. which I guess one would suggest that these animals do this at nearly the same sunset kind of time, which gives you an idea of the leeway time, right? It is really absolutely wild that a group of people that live in a world like us, and it's just like, and like, I think some of these people believe that the world is fucked up because they're the only ones doing this. And this can lead to, to some being crazy. And that crazy did get turned into Islam. Right? Islam, although it's a universal religion, it's designed to be completely culturally entrenched in the Arab world. Just like Christianity is meant to be completely entrenched in, the Roman imperial region. Rabbis taught 6 times was the signal blown on Friday. The first time to stop work in the field, the second to stop it in the city and in the stores, and the third time to light the lamps. Okay, so a 3 signal system. And so keep that in mind if ever they pull off events, psyops, stuff that seems like ritual magic. Here's good context. Perhaps this has something to do with it, perhaps not in a version that we don't know of this, but perhaps there will be other times where it is considered appropriate or necessary to do so. So said Nathan. And also another thing I was thinking about, see how they talk about Carmel, right? You see, there's a Carmel in New York. I'm familiar with it. I find it interesting that, like everything is biblical, right? Everything is like not everything, but my point, there's so many goddamn places that throughout the country that are named after places in the Middle East. This is because devotees and zealots, for various reasons, are living things out. So somebody named a place Carmel, New York, right, because they were Jews or serving the Jews, and they wanted them to have a Carmel mountain. They needed, so by donning it with the name, and it was and it being a place that had a good ceremonial like mountain or greater rolling hill or something like that, they could use that in reference to things they got to do around the Carmel, around the mountain, right? So that's why there's a fucking Bethlehem. Somebody's trying to birth a good kid. That kind of a good kid. So on and so forth. All right. So said Nathan Yehuda, the prince says that the third time is... Whose prince? What prince? This is the prince of Babylon? Right? These Jews say this is their government. Wasn't their government to serve a monarch? Isn't their thing a monarchy? They need a king? So who's the prince of the Jews? Is that this guy, Nathan Yehuda? What does it mean to be a prince in this manner? Says that the third time is sounded to take off the phylacteries. Then the beadle waits about as long as is required to bake a small fish or for bread to cleave to the oven. And he sounds again the 3 tones, one of the signal in succession for the Sabbath that is already come, our Simon B. Gamaliel said, "What shall we do with the Babylonians?" I thought you guys were the Babylonians. They sound the signal first and then blow the trumpet. From the moment the trumpet is sounded, they cease work. They do so because it is with them a matter of inherited custom. Ar Yehuda taught his son Ar Itzyak. The third sounding was a signal to light the lamp. This agrees with the ruling of Ar Nathan. At the school of Ar Ishmael, it was taught 6 times the signal. Hey, Zalero, what's going on, dude? 6 times the signal is sounded on Friday. When the first sounding begins, those who are in the field stop plowing and harrowing all field work. At the entrance to the city, those who are near must wait until the distant farmers come, so that they enter the city all together. The stores are yet open, and the stalls upon which wares are laid out are yet in their places. As soon as the second sounding begins, the stalls are cleared and the stores closed. The warm victuals prepared for the Sabbath, and the pots are as yet upon the hearth. As soon as the third sounding begins, the pots are taken off the hearth, the warm victuals are put in the stove, and the lamps are lighted. Then the beetle awaits about as long as it requires to bake a small fish or for bread to cleave to the oven, and he sounds the trumpets and the signal again and rests. Said Arios Biar Hanina, I have heard that if one wants to light up after 6 signals, he may do so. For the rabbis have allowed some time to the beetle to take his shophar horn to the house after the 6 signals. Right, so this is ritual literalism, right? This is where, it's very, it's right, it's part of all the right-hand path magic. Everything's got to be anal retentive, and we talked about this all the way, we've been talking about all this all the way through it, right? And you see, you've got this whole bit here where it's not just that it's precise, but that they have to get the precision understood straight from sources that allow it, and then sources that help you if you have to compromise for not having what you need to do it. Right? And if you believe in your heart that you're like a chosen Jew, converted or not, you converted to be a chosen one. I choose to be a chosen one. Right? That's the joke, right? You convert to Judaism, but nobody's really choosing you anyway. So it doesn't, so that's fine. You can be I mean, you're not a chosen. The thing is, the ones that are born into it are not chosen ones either, right? It's all illegitimate, right? The deal is that the rabbis are not sharing the mystery. They're not letting them know what all of this is really for. They just think that if you don't do this, God's going to make things worse. Right? Or, or things will not get better. So on and so forth. But the truth of the matter is that you've got to understand the meaning and the purpose of what you're doing. They're going through it. They have an explanation that, that rationalizes the particularities, because, it's something ritualistically you have to do here before this happens. Right? Anyway. If such were the case, the subject would depend on various measurements of time. Nay, but the beetle has a concealed place upon the roof where he sounds the shofar and puts away his instrument as soon as he has used it, after neither shofar nor a fife may be handled when the Sabbath is come. So you straight up have to use this. It's like literally, it's the last thing you use before the Sabbath comes. So you literally are risking your life because you ritually have to use the last thing before the Sabbath comes. Right? And you're keeping the people in the dark about what's really going on. Right? Why is this significant? Because somebody watching this right now who comes across knowledge of Babylonian ceremonies, ritual, government ordinances, magic, so on and so forth, who is looking for answers about something else, now gets correspondences because they came across me reading this, asking all the proper questions. Right? Because if it's 5 or 6, for instance, 5 and 6 have significant, because every different number has a significance. There's a reason why all across the world there are only 10 units used for number. And some would argue that 0 is not a unit of number, but it is there as part of the whole thing. So this is how you count it, right? So, 11, 10 and 11 are a 1 and a 0, a 1 and a 1. There isn't a new number. There isn't a number called 10. 10 is a word for when we express the first cycle of 9. And then we go to 11 to commence the second cycle of 9, to 20 to complete the second cycle of 9. Right? It's only about 9 and the transition through the portal. 9 is the wholeness of everything in its micro and macrocosm. But always passing through the portal, as it is always in change, always developing. Sometimes it is decaying. And the biospherical regenesis will bring an end to that. And breaking this curse will probably put an end to that. Not this particular curse. I'm just saying, just in general, the curse of the undercurrent of the Talmud, because all you have to do is realize where aspects of your life that you are interfacing with, whether it be the government, a business, a social function, you start seeing the patterns of certain things that are obligatory stuff you got to do at these events, right? And you'll see, wow, these are similar principles to that passage in the Talmud where they're bitching and complaining about the matzah ball soup and where it belongs on the Sabbath, right? It'll be that ridiculous, and then you'll realize by understanding why that argument was existing, what was going on around it, right? Like, this is all, like, once we get past this whole section that is about these Sabbath things, it's going to be more interesting, I think. Because remember, we're still just covering Sabbath and Hanukkah, which is kind of like Super Sabbath. Okay. But have we not learned that a shofar may be handled, but a fife may not, says our Yosef? this is not contradictory. Our case is that of a shopar belonging to the community. The case adduced treated of one that belongs to a private property. Therefore, it is permissible. So here you got a ridiculous loophole, right? So yeah, I know it's super serious. You better put that shit down before it comes. And it's just like, no. Wait, if you own it, it's, it's just like, why was it, like they can't, it's written like this because they literally don't want to agree on it, right? They want to keep it in a state of disagreeable. So that way, like, it's like their version of freedom, right? It's like, well, I'm free on Saturday to do this on the Sabbath, right? And it's so trivial. It's so fucking trivial. It's just a crazy force of habit put on these people, so they don't have any fun. On the weekends, right? To make them workers and to take the discipline required to an extreme. And especially considering, like, the kind of discipline that it's asking for. When I think of what all of these things that they do, all these things that I think I know Jews do, is there anywhere in here that says that the Jews need to do more push-ups? Is there anything in here that tells the Jews they need to handle a sword? Right? You unless you are making a personal choice to be in the military or the cops or a fight club or whatever, it's just like I don't see any Jewish obligatory to like be cool, like to be this is your Jewish diet. Now have your Jewish diet in a manner where you get cut, right? But no, some of these guys are really effing unhealthy. They got their nasty round faces, their terrible fucking skin, and all this stuff. They're not taking care of themselves. And like a lot of people that don't take care of themselves, they just think it's something that they're kind of born with. Anyway. Said Abaya. See how I can't get that straight? It's such a it doesn't look like it's a hard fucking word to pronounce. That's the stupid thing. And you know how good I am at pronouncing words. Why may a shopar that is private property be handled? Because it is sometimes used for taking up water to give a child drink. Let one that is public property also be allowed to handle, because it may be used in the same manner. Furthermore, was it not taught, as a shopar may be handled, so also may the fife be handled. According to those ruling in this, there is no contradiction in all this. The one that a shopar may be handled but not a fife is according to the ruling of Ar Yehuda. The other, that both may be handled, is according to the ruling of Ar Simeon. The third, that neither should be handled, is according to the ruling of Ar Nehemiah. And what is a shopar, the same as a fife, as Ar Hista said. Since the sanctuary was destroyed, the names have been changed. Oh, look at this. Look at this game that they continue to play. The shopar is called a fife. This is all because the temple was destroyed. Then they changed. What is so valuable about getting this straight? Right? A shopar is called a fife, and a fife is called a shopar. Moss springs up on the hulk. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a footnote. Excuse me. And the fife is called a shofar. Right. Okay. So, what nonsense, right? But interesting that after the temple is destroyed, the names of these two implements were changed. So there's a correlation to the collapse of the Second Temple and the collapse of the Tower of Babylon. Isn't that an interesting correlation? I wonder how often this comes about as we read the Mud. All right, so here's more footnotes. I'm not going to drive us crazy with the footnotes, but you can read them on the screen by pausing in your own time if you are interested in them yourself. This workload is such an enormity to begin with. Right? Let's back up there a little bit. All right. More footnotes. Lots and lots of footnotes. All right. Once I get to the bottom of these footnotes, I am going to start the break. I think that's just a continuation of that footnote. Dear God, there's a lot. This might be the end of the section. This might be the end of the... This might be like, we literally might be starting tonight, the next section. Because this is a lot of footnotes. I mean, granted, I'd believe that it's not over because it's that crazy. Okay, here we go. No? Okay, there we are. Chapter 3. Well, no, we're still in Sabbath, though. These are chapters within this section. So we're still on the Sabbath, but we are at a chapter head. Perfect time for me to throw another ear blister at you. If you listen to this later, you can skip the ear blister, which is a bonus, which is why I don't hold it against you if you don't really sit through the lives because you don't like the music. I know I'm not trying to reach everybody, right? And I'm certainly not doing the born-again Christians any favors by playing the devil's music, unless the Christians are those kinds of Christians. And there's a lot of extreme metalhead Christians. Granted, there's so many different kinds of churches, right? But look at how many different kinds of Jews there are, right? So we continue to forget how differently widespread, like some denominations are more rational and some aren't. Some are more secular friendly and some aren't, right? And so Christianity does get a good name when you kind of look at it in the aggregate because so few people are that fucking crazy. But also under these kinds of times, which at the very least are going to scare the fuck out of you if you don't know who you are. You're gonna lean heavier into that, especially if you really need to feel some fucking super, some magical moment from God to kind of at least keep your goddamn fucking spirit together. All right, so I found this. This is like a live song. Yeah, Nickelback is metal. Pasta, when I met you, you might have fucking believed that. And you know it. You know it. I've enlightened you to the savagery that is real music. This is the Czech Republic band called Cuttered Flesh with Code of Zerilath. Alright, there we go. That was Cuttered Flesh from Czech Republic. Code of Zerilath. Boom. Here we are in Chapter 3. Regulations concerning stoves, hearths, and ovens. So, this would be akin to working with the energy of Ingvaj, wouldn't it? Because all of these involve having a alchemical or transmutational kind of fire. Mishnah 1. Cooked victuals may be put on a stove that was heated with straw or stubble. If the stove was heated with the pulp of poppy seed, i.e. poppy seed from which the oil was pressed out, or with wood, cooked victuals may not be put upon it, unless the live coals were taken out or covered with ashes. Beth Shammai says the latter instance is permissible only in the case of victuals that are to be kept warm, but not of such as are improved by continuing cooking. Beth Hillel says both alike are permitted. Beth Shammai says victuals may be taken off the stove, but not put back upon it. Beth Hillel permits it. All right. Gemara. The schoolmen propounded a question as for the expression shall not be put. Does it, referring to a pot that has been taken off the stove, mean one shall not put it back, but it has not been taken off? It may be left there, even if the live coals were not cleared away or covered with ashes. Or does it mean that the pot should not be left there, even if it was standing there before, unless the live coals have been cleared out or damped? So much the more should it not be put there if it was once taken off. Come and here, there being two parts in our Mishnah, if the point of controversy is the leaving of the victuals on the stove if they were there before. The Mishnah is to be explained thus. On the stove that was heated with straw or with stubble, the victuals may be left on a stove that was heated with pressed poppy seed or with wood. Okay, so here is a need for poppy seeds. This would mean throughout history, the Jews would insist on always being in places that had access to poppies, which is well cultivated thanks to our drug industry. Oxycontin and such. The victuals may be left only if the live coals were taken out or covered with ashes. What kind of victuals may be left there? According to Beth Shammai, such as are to be kept warm. But just remember, we all love fucking poppy seed bagels, and poppies are fucking delicious. They're good for you. And they turn into plants that make opium. But anyway, good old opiates. I posted a few songs on my YouTube. Poppies? Nicholas, you happened to do a song on your YouTube called Poppies, and I'm talking about the poppy plant here tonight. That's an interesting sync. But if you read ahead in the book, because we all know which book I am reading, so I don't know how impressed I should be with that synchronicity. But anyway. And according to Beth Hillel, both, thus the point of controversy is the leaving of the victuals that had been on the stove before. And as the two schools differ in this matter, so do they also differ in their opinions concerning putting them back upon the stove if they were once taken off. But if you interpret the Mishnah to make the returning of the victuals to the stove the point of their differing, what kind of victuals should be returned to the store according to the former, such as are to be kept warm, but not such as improve by cooking, and according to the latter, both. If you put such a constriction upon the text of the Mishnah, to what purpose is it repeated? Beth Shammai says, etc. It may be said even that they differ concerning putting back, and nevertheless there is no difficulty, as the Mishnah is not complete and should read thus. If the stove was heated, but if they stood there before, they may be left there, even if the live coals are not taken out or covered with ashes. And what may be left, Beth Shammai says, only such as are to be kept warm. And Beth Hillel says, even victuals requiring cooking, but even in the case of returning the victuals to the stove, if they have been removed, there is still a difference of opinion between the two schools, for according to the former, they may be only taken off, and according to the latter, they may be returned also. So, I wonder, at what point you're raising a Jewish family and you're doing this stuff in the Talmud, and so your kids have a certain level of participation with this stuff, and what's the way that these kids are raised and taught? And I mean specifically because we're used to being raised and taught in the ways and things, right? You're raised in a Christian home, you're raised in a Buddhist home, and whatever, you learn certain ways and certain reasons why. You have a idea of your relationship with God as defined, and what certain things mean to God, like what is when there's an angel or a demon, and what is there when there's a miracle or a curse, and so on and so forth, right? And so what do they tell their kids growing up about other Jews in whatever way this diaspora is cut, that do things differently, right? Does one family just choose to say, listen, I know better than Gamaliel and what's his fuck and the other fuck? It is absolutely wrong to do this way. You must kill someone in their sleep to please the Lord. With all this shit going, there's got to be rabbis running around, that are frustrated with things, or Jewish families around frustrated with things, and they say fuck it, and they do their own thing. But they do their own thing not from freedom, but from their own little control hub. And I'm just, it's wild. It's wild to think, because if you've got so much meticulous ritual work that you're doing, where does all of this end up? Coming here are Helbo in the name of Arhama Bigorian, quoting Rab, saying, the Mishnah speaks only about putting the victims upon the stove, or the victuals upon the stove. Did I read this part? Am I being crazy? But as to putting them into the stove, it is surely prohibited. So you can put them on the stove, but not in the stove. Okay. Now, if thou sayest the dispute is about returning the pot to the stove, this remark is correct, for there is a difference to what place it is returned, whether into the stove or upon it. But If the question were about keeping it on the stove while it is here, what difference would it make? You know, like, this is like a cooking instructions, right? This is like how God wants you to cook. It's like God used to have a cooking channel back in the old kingdom, you see, right? And he would sit there and he'd be like, let's spice it up a little bit. Bang! Futurama fans, please. And you know, and we lost the cookbook. Right, we lost the cookbook, so we had to have a Mishnah about it. Do you think our Helbo report refers to the first part of the Mishnah? It refers to the second part, in which Beth Hillel allows it to be returned. And to this, he says, even in this case, upon the stove it is permissible, but not into the stove. You can see how easily you can gaslight someone with this shit. The schoolmen propounded a question. May a pot with victuals be placed so as to touch the side of the stove? Does the prohibition, which holds good for putting it into or upon the stove, apply also here, or is touching its side a different case? Come and hear a stove that was heated with pressed poppy seed or wood may be used to put a pot alongside of, but not on, unless live coals were taken out or covered with ashes. If the coals get dim or fine herds were put upon them, they are considered as if their fire was damped with ashes. Ar Hietziak. Ar Nehmani, in the name of Ar Oshia, says if the fire was damped and still it got a glowing, victuals that are sufficiently warm and cooked meats that require no more cooking may be left standing upon it. Is it to be inferred from this that if victuals are improved by shriveling upon the fire, they may be left there? This is a different case, for the fire was damped. If such is the case, what came Ar Itziak to teach? Lest one say that if the fire got to glowing again, it is to be considered as a fire originally started. Ar Itziak lets us know that when once a fire has been damped, we need have no further scruples about letting the victuals remain on it. Ar Shesheth said in the name of Ar Yohanan, victuals that require additional warming of additional cooking may be left upon a stove that was heated with pressed poppy seeds or with wood. But if there were once removed, that shall not be placed unless the live coals were taken out or covered with ashes. He was of the opinion that our Mishnah treats of replacing a removed pot, but allows a pot that was not removed to be left on the stove, even if the live coals are not taken out or covered with ashes, said Rabbah. Were not both propositions expounded in the Boretha that were cited? Aye, but Ar Shesheth merely wishes to exhibit his construction of the text of the Mishnah. So, okay. So what he is doing right there, you know what, I kind of want to identify with that. I have a habit in other conversations sometimes where I don't have like a big point I want to make, but I want to have a qualifier, a clearing up of an understanding that I have. So I bring up in the conversation, that's interesting about that point you made. Here's just a little anecdote that I know about that point that you made. And then sometimes that can really toss up people's thinking about stuff, because I may have brought up something that in their mind makes way too much sense, and but at the same time they don't like what it means. And then you get that resistance because there's cognitive dissonance protecting you from ontological shock. That's the point of cognitive dissonance, is that it puts separation between honestly, this is actually pretty subconscious functioning, right? Because it triggers something that's not in your unconscious. It's pulling it up from memory as a thing that you know, because it correlated several points. And that comes up and it throws your mind off course because you're questioning a bunch of things that you weren't thinking about today. And you can't believe how relevant they are to what I just said. And that's what this is. Now, under the hands of a dark sorcerer, they can twist those words and get people to hate each other. Our Samuel B. Yehuda, in the name of Yohanan, said, upon a stove that was heated with pressed poppy seed or wood, victuals may be left standing if they are sufficiently warmed and sufficiently cooked. Even if shriveling improves them, said one of the schoolmen to him, did not Rab and Samuel both say that if shriveling improves them, it is not allowed? And he answered, I said this in the name of Ar Yohanan and not in the name of the above mentioned. As I am aware of it, Ar Ukba of Mishan said to Ar Ashai, you who cherish the teachings of Rab and Samuel may follow their regulation, but we will follow the regulation of Ar Yohanan. Abai, I like that. Question Ar Yosef, may victuals be left on the stove? Actually, I will come back to that. It's 10:17. It's time for another break. So, what am I going to go? There we go. I'm going to give this song a shot. I don't know what it sounds like. The band is Graufar. Via Necropolis is the song. And then for the break after that, I am going to go with the recommendation that I think, who said it? Was it Zolero? One of the videos playing. Okay, that's you playing drums. That's cool though. Shoot. Impermanence. I will grab an Impermanence song. was good. Woo, that was better than I thought it was going to be. That was nice. Graufar via Necropolis. So yeah, I was just talking with Zolero in here about, he wants to do like a music podcast. I said like, I'll do a show. I'll do like a one-off. But I don't want to do a series. I don't want to put the time into a series. Like, I have a very... Look, I'm like... I do this brilliant thing that I do, but also my mind does not organize and work like other fucking people's minds. Part of my whole fucking thing. It's literally me. And I don't have tolerance for people that don't like me. And I'm going to do what I'm going to do over here. And if you don't like me, I can't help it. This is what I like to do. This is how I like, this is what I have to offer. And then I want to make music and offer that. Right? So, like, my point is that, like, I don't get, like, super deep into, like, listening and then, like, going and, like, oh, God, I gotta read all the lyrics and I gotta follow, like, all the things that the band was doing. It's these are just guys that feed my fucking soul. That's the number one thing they're doing, is feeding my soul. And, the rest is just the inspiration to destroy absolute evil. All right, let's get back to this. Let's put the book back where it belongs. I think I read... I started reading that. That's where we are. Abai questioned Ar Yosef, may victuals be left on the stove? And he answered, did not Ar Yehuda say, victuals on the stove and eat them afterward? Rejoined Abai, the case of Ar Yehuda cannot be taken into consideration. He was stricken with a dangerous disease, and for him even the cooking of victuals on the Sabbath was permitted. But I ask about healthy men, you and me. Okay, so he's citing that when he said that, that was under the circumstances of sick. And you know what? That actually sounds perfectly rational and reasonable to me. I mean, none of this is rational and reasonable, but if you play along with the major premise, sure, why not? And you see how there's no explanation of why God needs them to do it this way. They just know that the answer is somewhere in all of this shit that the rabbis know. And that's all these other Jews know. Sabbath was permitted, but I ask a healthy man like you and me. So, in Surah, they do leave as Ar Nahman B'Yetziak, who was exemplary in the following religious ordinances, was wont to leave and to eat. Was wont or want? That probably meant want, like wanting. Ar Ashai said, and I notice now, like, this is pretty solid. It's probably going to be all these names, like, I haven't heard a new rabbi's name since, like, what, fucking page 10 or something? I don't know, like, I can't even remember, like, Ashi maybe is new. Like, there's very few names in this book thus far. This is a very small group of authoritative rabbis and, like, sub-authoritative rabbis, it would seem. So anyway. I was standing before Arjuna and observed that fried fish was kept warm for him and he ate it. But I know not whether he did it because he thought that victuals which improve by shriveling are allowed, or whether he thought that because there was flour on his fish, continuous warming did not improve it. See, like here we are, this is cooking. This is just cooking instructions. They're driving themselves nuts with ritual cooking instructions. Because they don't have the mystery behind the fucking ritual. It's like a dead ritual. Without the mystery, this ritual has no spirit, no life force. It has no story that it tells in and of itself. What is the purpose for it this way? Why do you have to move this way? Why do you have to feel this way when you do it? What's all the stuff that you are recreating? Postismith says they're all clones. In that sense, yeah, it's anybody on the collective level is somewhat of a clone, right? Look, there are, just like, I've been talking about this, it's the sickness, like, you're looking at the Essenes and the Zealots from the Jewish War right now. You see a zealot, and she did an impassioned thing to protect people she wants to care about. Right? She did an impassioned thing to protect people she wants to care about. And you have the President of the United States thinks it was acceptable to shoot her just because she was being rude. The President said that. He said at the very least she was rude. And didn't qualify anything else. And the press doesn't know anything about a person's rights. Holy shit, if I was in that fucking room, the rights I would start spitting fire. But that's why they won't let me on fucking Air Force One. I'll fucking psychically take the president down. It'll be a fucking global emergency. Fuck, he's broken his cognitive dissonance. Class 1 emergency, the veil is shattered. Like, don't get me in a room with the president with live cameras rolling. The universe will fucking explode. I'll be like, thanks. Leo has roared. Well, it might be a screaming match. I might have to deal with him being like, and you, sir, I don't know what the fuck Trump would fucking yell at me like. I'm not the guy that interviewed Roger Stone 10 years ago. Yes, I interviewed Roger Stone 10 years ago. Who here remembers me bragging about that on Weaving Spiders Welcome? I don't remember if I ever told Pasta that. Zalero, I don't think you knew that because we met only recently through Robert Phoenix. Nicholas knows it though. He should. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm not that guy anymore. Right, so anyway, you're watching the Essenes and the fucking Zealots tear each other apart, and they're dehumanizing her. Like, dude, you can't just fucking call every woman who gets hysterical about their worldview a person that belongs in a crazy hospital, right? And that footage all looks like a cop that wanted to be assaulted by a vehicle to have an excuse to murder somebody. And the right never wants to see it because the right sadistically likes to watch people get victimized like that. They think that this will force liberals to behave themselves. And unfortunately, because the press is so awful, and other politicians have been so awful, and other fucking public figures have been so awful, we see far more of the cruel, bully type demagoguery coming from this man defending these barbarous actions. And just like the left sadism with Charlie Kirk, it's the exact equivalent. And this is why I have to call all sorts of people on their bullshit, because I may disagree with Sanctuary City's policy, but I want to preserve the authority of the Sanctuary City because it is closer to libertarian anarchy when you do it that way, especially because it protects gun rights. So therefore, although I support ICE, I do not support ICE in sanctuary cities because it is an insult to the 10th Amendment obligations, and it is vast. You could say there's no constitutional overreach, but motherfucker, go read the full Declaration of Independence, because we have declarational overreach. And that document is the spirit of the Constitution. And that spirit does not exist on the left and the right in their halls of power. But it does exist when you push it far enough, because there's not enough people in the conspiracy or are worth it to go with the conspiracy when the paradigm has flipped and the gatekeepers have crashed. The gatekeepers have to be crashed here because they want to reframe everything. I would not have cared one fucking iota whether she looked like a typical bull dyke lesbian or not. She don't look that different than Cheney. It's a horrible way to fucking judge. I mean, Cheney's a lot more handsome than she is. Cheney takes that as a compliment, you know that, right? So, just because I'm not gonna insult Cheney, right? Like, it's not that she was some fucking innocent person. It's not about her innocence. It's innocence. It's about her right. She had a right to be there. Police, ICE are not police. They wear that thing that says police. They're agents. They're not police. They're not policemen of Americans. And if she never assaulted you, there's nothing wrong with what she was doing because she belongs there. Even if she doesn't live literally there, she belongs there the way I belong on any given street in this country, in any given state. Period. That's all there is to it. We just killed an American trying to save Americans from aliens. We said it is so important that we catch an alien alive to deport that we will kill an American standing in our way to protect that American from the alien that they are protecting. And she had to die. And the president said she was very rude, and that's why she deserved it. And the press fails us. Everybody fucking fails us. But the left doesn't seem to realize how they've been failed. And the right now doesn't realize how they are being failed either. They're looking at this like it's some grand success. The middle of this fucking country that was disgusted by the Charlie Kirk thing will be disgusted by this. Because there's been plenty of buildup of not liking a lot of how this has been. It's not the worst of emergencies. If you don't have a corruption issue, then you got to give that state the benefit of the doubt. If you don't have a real corruption issue here, you got to give that state the benefit of the doubt that they're being on the level with you. Because if you don't have enough to fucking work off of those allegations to actually do a thing, then that state's going to continue doing what it's going to do. Which is going to be a big problem. Because you're talking about no local cops that know how to handle the people that they're trained to handle because they're trained for their common ground, their culture, and their community. Right? I'm an anarchist. I'd rather there not be cops. But you're talking about putting anarchy on people that don't know how to defend themselves. So they need cops because they don't know how to defend themselves. They don't even know how to save themselves. They need lessons in first aid and shit. And you still don't see any of them, getting their fucking shit together so they can be a warrior and defend the people that they care about. They're just going on about it. Right? If your goal is to try to stop the thing altogether, that's not going to happen. But it should stop in sanctuary cities because those are state laws being violated, insulted, whatever. It's not right. And if you don't have a specific dangerous target that you can convince that state to say, will you be with us to go in there? Then don't fucking go in there. For fuck's sake. Believe me, I want ICE to go get bad people out. I also don't like the fact that there's no accountability at these fucking concentration camps, okay? There's no need to be building big-ass fucking facilities if it's just a temporary transition station. Last thing we need is a war with Russia, and then the Russians starve all the fucking people in those concentration camps, and then we get pinned for what they pinned Germany on. Just because they exploited a supply chain cutoff at a fucking deportation center while we moved into war. And eventually yelling, but the other side is to blame, is not going to save us at that point. It'll be too late. Which is why I get so seriously vicious with people, because they do not know the hour we are in. Well, I think some of them are getting the point of the hour that we're in now. But they can't fucking handle it. Well, you know what? I couldn't fucking handle the pandemic either, but I got out. Stop lying to yourself. Arnaman said, victuals that improve by shriveling must not be left on the stove, such as deteriorate may. The rule is that all victuals which contain flour deteriorate by continuous warming. Ar Hayabihaba was questioned. If one forgot his pot and left it upon the stove, and the victuals were thus cooked on the Sabbath, may he eat them or not? The master gave no answer. The next time he lectured, victuals cooked on the Sabbath unintentionally may be eaten, intentionally not. But as regards to the pot that is forgotten on the stove, it makes no difference. Imagine if you've already been living your life practicing the Sabbath. How were you practicing the Sabbath before you had that conversation? You had the Sabbath last week and the issue didn't come up, or you weren't responsible for the issue, right? So I suppose probably part of this is that, you know, you do as instructed to make sure you aren't in violation of a thing on the Sabbath. Well, everybody else who knows the Talmud, they have a lot more leeway to do what they're going to do on the Sabbath. And if you're ignorant of the Talmud, and if you're outside of the Jews, or if you're a heretic like me, like everybody listening to this right now, you are aware without anybody having to teach you. But you're playing with fire if you show your hand. So you play dumb as fuck. All right? You play dumb as fuck. Anyway. What does the phrase, "it makes no difference," mean, Rabbah and Ar Yosef both say that the phrases implies that it may be eaten, for one who cooks acts intentionally, but when forgotten, there was no act, and therefore he may eat it. But Ar Nahman B. Isaac says the above phrase of "it makes no difference" implies a prohibition. In the case of cooking, there is no fear of craft. Therefore, if he has done it unintentionally, he is not fined. But in the case of forgetting the pot in the fire, craft may be feared. It means that he may put it in intentionally, saying that he forgot, and therefore, even if he actually forgets, he is not allowed to eat the victuals. You see, this is very fucking important they figure out, like, this. Right? You gotta really drive a man mad. You're practically condemning him by intention. Instead of just fucking letting it go because, you know, none of this is necessary to please God. There, I said it. All right. Schoolman propounded a question. What about one who had intentionally left his victuals upon the stove? Do the rabbis find him or not? Come and hear. Samuel B. Nathan, in the name of Ar Hanina, said when Aryos went to Zaiporis, he found warm meat that had been left upon the stove. And he did not prohibit their use, but shriveled eggs that had been left upon the stove he permitted. Shall we not assume that he forbade their use even on the Sabbath as fine? Nay, he forbade their use for the following Sabbath. Would you care to elaborate? From this is to be inferred that shriveled eggs improve by continuous heating. As our Hanana and B. Hanina said, Rabbi and I were once stopping at a certain place. We were treated with eggs shriveled like wild pears, and we ate many of them. Sure. Okay, why not? Okay, so, all right, 1047. I think this is a good time for the next break. So, this is Impermanence. I picked Ascension Through Defiance. that was intense. That was a good call. Impermanence. Love the band name. Love the song title. That was nasty fast. Really fucking sharp fucking riffs. Sharp riffs. That's how I fucking describe that. Sharp. Okay. I can't believe it's only been 90 minutes. You know, so we'll keep going, I guess, another fucking 90 minutes. Dear God. I thought it was more like 2 hours by now. All right. So, it may also be put back, Arshasheth said. The Tana who holds that the pot may also be put back upon the stove allows this to be done even on the Sabbath. Oshia is also of the same opinion, for thus he said, we were once standing before Arhaya the Great. We served him with a bowl of warm soup, which was brought from the lower floor of the house, and we mixed a cup of wine for him, and afterwards we returned it, the bowl, to its place, and he said nothing. And Arhaya, in the name of Aryahanan, said, even if the warm pot taken off from the stove was put upon the ground, it may still be put back on the stove. Said Hiskaya, in the name of Abai. According to them, who hold that if he put it on the floor, it may not be returned. It is said only when it was not his intention to return it, but if it was, he may. And from this is to be inferred that if it was still in his hand, although his intention was not to place it again, he may do so on reconsideration. Mishnah 2. Victuals shall not be put either inside or on top of an oven that was heated with straw or with stubble. A firing pot that was heated with straw or with stubble is considered by the law as a stone, but if it was heated with pressed poppy seed or with wood, it is considered an oven. Okay, that's interesting. A stone versus an oven. I think a stone is a particular term for a kind of cooking place. That I think I've heard that term used before, and so there's a distinction there which tells you that you can't use one versus the other under certain distinctions, right? You know, so it's like I play Magic the Gathering, like it's kind of like Magic the Gathering where you have to read the card properly and understand what it means when it says you may do something or you just simply do the thing. If it says may, it means it's optional, right? And you have to very literally read the card. And then there is the question of any new rules that enter the game as a response to you playing the card that may change the result you were looking for. And if any possible chance that you have a chance to respond because he did that to change your original thing, can you respond to that? Right? And so this is the deliberating discourse that would happen between two people arguing over the proper use of a thing. All right. Mishnah 2, victuals shall not be put either inside or onto, Gemara. A boretha. Okay, it's a Gemara citing a boretha. I love how convoluted it keeps getting. It's amazing that they didn't bother to be more cohesively. You gotta ask yourself, how have the Jews never come together? They've had Israel now for 50 some odd years, 70 odd year, whatever. And none of these Jews came together and just like settled a handful of these things. Anyway, if an oven was heated with straw or with stubble, a pot with victuals shall not be put close to it, so that it touches the oven. Less so upon it, and still less so into it, so much the less shall a pot be put alongside of an oven that was heated with poppy seed pulp or with wood. If a firing pot was heated with straw or with stubble, a pot may be put close to it, but not upon it, with poppy seed pulp or with wood. It must not be put close to it, right? There's some Bible scripture that makes it matter with the poppy seeds for certain things and with the other stuff for the other thing, right? Depending on the context in that book of the Torah and any fucking other thing in the Mishnah that somebody will claim is a superior fucking procedure. And whichever one somebody fucking chooses to hold to, somebody else is going to argue with them about it and start a fight. Anyway. Less upon into it shall be a pot, but alongside it. Okay, where was it? Seed pulp close to it. Said Araha biraba to Arashi. How shall the firing pot be considered? If it is like a stove, even if heated with poppy seed pulp or with wood, a pot shall be allowed to be put close to it. And if it is like an oven, it should not, even if it is heated with stubble or straw. Answered he, it contains more heat than a stove and less heat than an oven. What is a firing pot and what is a stove? Said Arhios bi Hanina. A firing pot has an opening on top upon which only one pot can be set. A stove has openings upon which two pots can be set. Okay, I see. Mishnah 3. An egg shall not be put close to a boiler to get it settled, nor must it be wrapped in a hot cloth. Archios permits it. Also, it must not be put into hot sand or in the hot dust on the road, and that it be roasted by the heat of the sun. Or in the hot of the road, that it be roasted. Right. Okay, so this just generally means don't leave your eggs out where the heat of just the natural heat, or it's fucking blistering hot out. It's gonna end up cooking it or whatever, right? So sure, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, I think you had chickens in the desert. I mean, you had chickens chickens are part of ritual sacrifices and stuff in Jewish culture. So, you have plenty of eggs. And you're in the desert, or you're in the summertime, right? And so, with modern refrigeration, I don't think you got to worry about that. And the Jews are not like Luddites. They're not, like they got like electricity. They have Jewish electricity. I don't know how it works, but I'm told it's adequate for them. They have like a Jewish internet filter. I'm aware that there's I used to do these door-to-door sales for a company that was selling on behalf of Verizon Wireless. It was one of those fucking scammy fucking go out there and sell on the street situations. I just turned down a phone call from a job like that, not knowing what they really were on Indeed. But I used to hate that shit. And they put me on an assignment, which I knew was a push-me-out assignment. I didn't care. I didn't say anything. I just left. But they put me in all these Jewish neighborhoods for like a week or two. And I said, like literally, this is impossible. They're they're not going to open the doors after dark or whatever. None of them need internet at all. It's a Jewish, like, they've got JNet. So everywhere I go, I got to write down the thing JNet. Like, you know, like they got this thing, right? They already got an internet provider. They have their own internet provider, and they filter the internet for them. They want a censored internet. They have, I don't know how their filtering works, but it, you know, my understanding is that it keeps all of the temptations to Jewish law off the internet. You know, it's like an old, you know, it's kind of like having a kid's internet for everybody, I suppose. But, you know, they can do their business and answer their emails and, you know, get access to the movies that they want and never see options for sinful movies in their opinion. Something like that. I don't know. You know, the Jews run Hollywood, and then there's also a bunch of Jews that would never watch a Hollywood film because they think it's smut. And that doesn't necessarily make them good people. As You Wish, Inconceivable. Oh, I like the title, Princess Bride reference. Per Eggs, Chickens was queried recently about how are they like gold. Was an intriguing thought exercise to compare the alchemical and functional correspondence, i.e. generational wealth. Well, sure. Well, you see, an egg yolk is golden. It's a golden egg yolk. It's a yellow. It's yellowish gold. And anything that is gold is correspondent to gold and correspondent to the sun. And correspondent to your eternal soul. Get the connection? 3 eggs. Over medium. Every day. Unless I am fasting, every day I have 3 eggs over medium. Also with bacon on the side, but the eggs are the only thing that matters here, right? Because eggs are awesome. Eggs are kind of like a ration, right? And there's, I think, 6 grams of protein in an egg, roughly. In like a large or jumbo egg, which is why I take 3. Because that's about 18 grams of protein. Plus the bacon. You know, that puts me at like just over, a little bit over 20. And then I can stretch it out, have lunch, and if I burned a lot of calories, I'll have dinner. Otherwise, I'll skip dinner. I'll have like snacks and stuff. I can do 2 meals a day, right? Today actually is a 2 meal a day. I did 2 meals a day and I had some snacks. Very light snacks. Rice cakes today with some caramel flavoring. Yes, perhaps this Talmud section about eggs isn't about eggs. Like I said, if you've heard, I said like that, you know, all of this is being done and the mystery's taken out of it. Now, all of this is for whatever significance and also whatever joy out of these ceremonies, right? It's, remember, this is their government. There's a bunch of laws telling you that this is how you do your ritual ceremony. Ugh, my God. What people have to understand, like what Rome didn't understand, is that you give the Jews a government that is a Jewish government, it's going to turn into this. And the problems that caused, and I think that's why we had the Jewish War, right? which is why so much of it just boiled down to one thing or another, because one guy's crazy, bloody thing that he did was ordained by some understanding of Babylonia. And the other guy really believed that the other one was viciously wrong about that, and thus was in the wrong for killing him, and then he went and killed him. And then everybody that agreed with the other guy swore revenge, and back and forth and back and forth. All right. The schoolmen question, how is it if one has done so with an egg, said Ar Yosef, he is liable for... Wait, did I read all of... I'm sorry, did I read the whole passage, but not for washing? Drinking only... Okay, hold on. I got to read the rest. Let me jump back up here. It once happened that the inhabitants of Tiberias had laid a pipe of cold water through the arm of their hot spring. But the sages explained to them that on the Sabbath, this water is considered like any other warmed on the Sabbath, and must not be used either for washing or drinking, and should this be done on a feast day, it is like water heated by fire, which may be used for drinking only, but not for washing. Now, also remember, we're talking about the egg. The egg is also fertility rituals. We're talking about, I think, Ishtar with the egg, right? Because we're appealing to Babylonian deities and spirits. And so fertility rites is an aspect here. Gemara, the schoolman question, how is it if one has done so with an egg? Said Ar Yosef. He is liable for a sin offering, said Mar bi Rabhaina. This is to be understood also from the following Boretha. Everything that was in hot water before the Sabbath may be soaked in hot water on the Sabbath. Things that were not in hot water before the Sabbath may be rinsed in it, excepting old herrings and Spanish salted fish, because with these rinsing completes their preparation. The same is the case with an egg. The settling completes. Right? So, these laws, they got them on the habits. There's laws for doing the habits on your dailies, weeklies, yearlies, monthlies wrong. And serious consequences and punishments. Right? So, it's kind of like, as I was sitting here earlier with my little rant about Nicole, talking about state law, there's also the absurdity of state law. There's still laws on the books about, like, I don't know, chewing bubble gum and walking down the street at the same time. You have to, there's certain states that still have laws like you have to have a fucking, a man on a horse with a megaphone or something, about 10 feet in front of your automobile, yelling, out of the way, automobile coming through, or something like that. Some back in the day when, being the automobile was the oddity on the road, and they had to keep the pedestrians and the horses from getting run over, or from you going too fast on them. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. Rinses completes the preparation. Same as the case of the egg settling completes. Okay. nor shall it be wrapped, etc. Now the Mishnah, which states, cooked victuals may be put into a pit for preservation, drinking water into cold bad water, bath water, I think he meant bath water, to cool, cold victuals in the sun to warm. Shall we assume that it is in accordance with Aryos and not the sages, said Ar-Nahman. As to the heat of the sun, all agree that it is allowed. The outcome of heating by fire, all agree that it is prohibited. The point of their differing is the outcome of sun heating. The one master holds that the use of such heat is prohibited for fear lest one use also the heat that is generated by fire. The other master does not impose such a precautionary measure. Like, seriously, like, this is worse than OSHA 10. As a construction worker outside of New York, I took OSHA 10. I can only imagine OSHA 30. I'm not going to take OSHA 30 until I get qualified in some other things, because OSHA 10 is all I really need just to be on the general labor of a job site, even for higher craftsmen. It happened that the inhabitants of Tiberias, etc., Hista said, with the prohibition by the rabbis of the act of the Tiberians, they have also abolished the permission to heat on Friday, even when it is yet day, in such places as increase heat. You see, they sinned so hard, they got a carbon tax. Setula, the halakha prevails according to Tiberians. Rejoined on Nahaman, the Tiberians themselves have already destroyed their pipes, washing with warm water. How is this to be understood? The whole body. Is this prohibited only with water that was warmed on Sabbath? Is it not the same even when it was warmed on the eve of Sabbath, as the following Boretha states, with water which was warmed on the eve of Sabbath? On the morrow, one may wash, Wishy-Washy, washing machine company in Walla Walla, Washington. I grew up on real Looney Tunes. Shut up. Let's see. Wash his face, hands, and feet. But not the whole body. And if it means the face, etc., how is the latter part to be understood? If it was warmed on a feast day, etc. Shall we then assume that our Mishnah states in accordance with the Beth Shammai, as they so state plainly elsewhere, to which the Beth Hillel opposed and permitted? Said our Aikwa bi Hanaina, our Mishnah treats of washing the entire body, and it is in accordance with the Tana of the following Boretha: one shall not rinse his entire body on the Sabbath, either with warm or with cold water. So use lukewarm water. Because, like, if you can use water because you have to qualify it with warm or cold, this implies lukewarm. Room temperature water you can wash with. I mean, I've heard of worse. I mean, like, it should be hot, but whatever. And, you know, at least you can't Windhoff on the Sabbath. Our Mishnah treats of washing the entire body and is in accordance with the Sabbath following. Okay. So is the decree of Armair, but Simeon permits this. Hista says their dispute concerns only water that is in the ground, but water contained in a vessel is strictly prohibited. Only water that is in the ground. So don't bathe in a cold, don't take a cold plunge, and don't go to like a hot sauna, is what they're saying. If it's in the ground, then that makes sense. Now, water contained in a vessel is strictly... So, no tubs, I guess. Okay. We're going to pause here. Because time flies, we're having fun. I don't even know if this is metal, let alone good metal. The music video is blacks and purples. Not black people. Well, actually, I don't know. I can't tell the ethnicity. They're musicians. I don't see rapping going on. So, the band is called Fire from the Gods. The song's called Human. Let's find out if I've even picked a metal song. This will be fun. Alright, not bad. I put it in the kill, switch, engage category. And you know what? Like, I was actually... that singer was black, actually. So it's purple set, the black singer. I'm sure the band had an open joke about that. Alright. Here we go. Let me take a look real quick. Sorry. Yeah, alright. So we're rolling for about 45 more minutes. So there'll be one more break in here somewhere. I'll pick something at random when it pops up. Rabba Bibi Hana, in the name of Yohanan, said, The halakha prevails according to Ach Yehuda. How many Jews get really offended if I fucking like really lean hard into the I'm pretty sure a lot of them have good senses of humor. And they probably are laughing real hard while they're thinking about killing me because I'm reading their sacred books. But I'm glad I'm making them laugh. Anyway, prevails according to Ar Yehuda, said Ar Yosef to him, didst thou hear this explicitly, or dost thou derive it by inference from a similar teaching? I have heard it explicitly, he answered. It was taught if water was warmed on Friday, Rab said one may wash his entire body in it on the next day. Every member separately, i.e. not plunge into it at once. Samuel, however, said it was not allowed, but of the face, hands, and feet, and the following Boretha supports Samuel. If water was warmed on Friday, one may wash his face, hands, and feet with it on the following day, but not his entire body, even member by member, and so much less with water warmed on a feast day. Said Ar Yosef to Abai, did Rabbah not act according to the decisions of Rab? I know not, he answered. The rabbis taught. How often do they ever fucking mix up those names? Where one guy says Rab, but meant Rabbah. Or one guy says Rab, but the other one thought he heard Rabbah. Right? Like, and thought he heard in a manner in which he would never guess that he misheard it. Because I'm like that. I will hear something and not guess that I misheard it. That happens sometimes. And then I'll have an embarrassing moment. Okay, sorry, I was just finding my spot. According to the rabbi, he answered, the rabbis, the rabbis, taught a bathhouse, the opening of which were stopped up on a Friday so that the heat should not escape, may be used for bathing immediately after the Sabbath is over. If its openings were stopped up on the eve of a feast day, one may on the next day enter it to have a sweat, but he must leave it and rinse his hands in an adjoining room. Ar Yehuda said it happened in a bathhouse of the city of Bnei Barak, that its openings were stopped up on the eve of a feast day. The next day, Ar Elazar, be Azariah, and Ar Akiba entered it and took a sweat. Then they left it and rinsed their bodies in the adjoining room, but the warm water in it had been covered with boards when the report of this reached the masters. They said even the warm water had not been covered with boards. They were also allowed to do so. However, since the transgressing began to increase, they began to prohibit. In bathhouses of large cities, one may walk about without fear of people saying that he went to take a sweat. Fascinating. And then I wonder what relevance the sweating has to anything. I've noticed that there have not been many citations of anything in the Torah or any of these other extracurricular texts. This has all been very much the rabbis and particular process and procedure that may have some context because they may know of which bath in the Bible is relevant to the bath in question for ritual and don't have to say it. Right? I don't care enough to understand this enough to go that far with my study. This is just being done as a necessity now. I believe it is important that this book is exposed. That's the purpose for what I am doing. Because of the hour that we are in. And what people think they support with the so-called State of Israel. Okay. What does the expression transgressing mean? Now, in context of the Sabbath, that's a good question if you don't know. I hope he doesn't mean transgressing as in general. As Arsimeon Bipazi in the name of Ar Yahshua B. Levi, quoting Bar Kapara, said, in former times the people were accustomed to bathe on the Sabbath in water that was warmed on Friday. The bath keepers then began to warm the water on the Sabbath and to tell the people that it had been warmed on Friday. Hereupon they prohibited bathing in warm water, but still they placed no restriction upon taking a sweating in the bathroom. Like, they're really hung up on like, they want all of their habits from that time, like, restored, right? All of their fucking arbitrary cultural habits. You know, these people have no knowledge of self. The men of the North are rediscovering their traditions in a much more cohesive manner. We have much more rational, explanatory, non-controversial, non-debated literature of all sorts of things that we had and were in at least the late Bronze Age forward. And many of us had to decode what they meant by what was written, or you had to work with fragments of things and put together ideas and change things that you got inspiration from elsewhere as you're growing and using knowledge coming from elsewhere to help you fill in the gaps, right? People apply Kabbalah to their practice because outside of Keylontic science, they have the most comprehensive system for your baseline functional framework references. And that is the only reason, right? And there's a reason why it's the only one. And it has everything to do with it being the only acceptable form of anything by somebody if we go into Noahide law. And we have a responsibility to not use it and to use the right stuff. And a lot of people get fucking uncomfortable when I fucking say that, because it's all academic, arbitrary, and you're just insulting something that you can learn from. Yeah, I am insulting something that I can learn from. I learn a lot from Christianity every day, and I don't get that many complaints about insulting it. The people then would come and bathe, but pretend to merely take a sweating. Then sweating was also prohibited, but washing in the hot spring water of Tiberias was still allowed. The people, however, would come and wash themselves in water that was warmed by the fire and say that they washed in the hot spring water. You see, obviously Babylon was creating all these rules when they didn't have the ability to have sanitation, and they wanted to have these big communities, to have this big power system. because these are all human resources that want to get in with what Babylon has to offer, so that way they'll work for them. Right? And that's why people would put up with this. Because it's the same reason why people put up with all manner of times where the United States treated its own people poorly out of fear. And we keep doing this loop because the men abandon their responsibility to remember the past, to keep rational context for the women who weave the future. Subsequently, warm water was prohibited for bathing altogether, but bathing in cold water was allowed, seeing that the people could not stand the last prohibition. It was therefore revoked. See, okay, so some of this is about God, but some of this is about literally this is just a stateless government trying to remember all these fucking laws for when they get their country back, right? That's a big part of it. All this is for that, right? State of Israel now exists. Vast swaths of the way they schedule their lives are for all the Jews that want to be in concurrence with the law. And let's just wait until we find out more reasons why Jews treat Goyim the way that they do. The people, however, would come and wash themselves in the water that was warmed by the... Wait, did I read that? No, bathing was allowed. Seeing the people could not stand the last prohibition... Yeah, revoked, I'm sorry. And bathing in the hot spring water of Tiberias was allowed. The prohibition of the sweating bath, however, remained. The rabbis taught one may warm himself by a hearth fire and afterwards rinse himself with cold water, but not bathe first in cold water and then warm himself by a hearth fire, because he warms the water that is on him. If you're it's wild. It's just like they are the definition of people that are addicted to government, right? Like, they really care about obeying God's laws, but these are, these are all man's laws, but implied as God's laws because you believe it's part of a time where God and the state were one. And it ain't pretty, but it is the limit of your ability to see this good, orderly world of God that you think you're keeping alive by doing this. The rabbis taught one may warm a sponging cloth and put it upon his bowels on the Sabbath. Bowels or bowl? That's bowels, right? But he must not do so with a boiling hot vessel, for this is dangerous even on weekdays. Okay. The rabbis taught one may put a pitcher of water before a blazing fire, not to warm it, but to temper the coldness of the water. Aryahu Yudah said, a woman may put an oil flask before a blazing fire, not to boil it, but merely to temper it. Simeon B. Gamaliel said, a woman may unhesitatingly put oil on her hand, warm it before the fire, and anoint her little son with it without any fear. Said Yehuda, in the name of Samuel, whether it be oil or water, if the hand is spontaneously withdrawn from it, feeling the scald, it is prohibited prohibited but not otherwise, and what extent of heat is meant by it. Said Rabbah, if the belly of a child is scalded by it. Imagine some psychopath taking that standard of measurement and asking their kid to come here. Because we all know that, like, some of these motherfuckers are literal as fuck. I bet they keep that under the fucking table. But, you know what? Yeah, I mean, it's wild to think that once you've read this book as an outsider, you know somebody quietly on the inside is probably doing that. And I wonder, are they saying, like, son, come here, right? Like, I'm going to put this on you. I have to make sure whether it's scalding or not. So it's going to be hot, it's going to hurt, you're going to have to scream, and it's going to whatever. And then fucking, like, gets the child scalded. Like, does he do it like that? And I'm assuming he's prepared to take care of the scalded part of the body. It's wild to effing think about. Itzhak B. Abdimi said, I once followed Rabbi into the bathhouse on the Sabbath. I wanted to put a bottle of oil for him into the tank that contained hot spring water. Said he unto me, take out some warm water from the tank and put it into another vessel to warm the oil in. From this we have inferred three things. The first, that oil improves by warming, and it is prohibited and is a prohibited act. Second, that if anything is put into a second vessel, not directly into the boiling vessel, it is not considered cooking. Third, that the mere tempering of oil is analogous to cooking it. Said Rabina, lots of these RABHs, right? From this story, it may be inferred that if one cooks in the hot spring water of Tiberias on the Sabbath, he is culpable. For the case happened after the rabbi had imposed the precautionary measure, and yet rabbi would not allow him, or Itzhak, to put the oil directly into the tank. Is that so? Did not Arhista say that he was cooked in the hot spring water of Tiberias is not culpable? The culpability to be inferred from the case of rabbi extends only as far as blows of correction are concerned. Ar Zera said, I have seen Ar Abuhu swimming in a tank, and I know not whether he raised his feet from the ground or not. Is it not self-evident that he did not raise them, as there is a Boretha? One shall not swim about in a pond, even if that pond is stationed in a yard. This presents no difficulty in a pond. It is prohibited because it is similar to a river, while in a tank it is allowed because it is similar to a vessel. Sure. Man, one would think that after their government collapsed, they could just lean back on the laws a little bit. Got to keep all these people together and keep them following the laws. We just have to enforce it on ourselves, right? And they want, like, it's amazing to think, like, how many of them kill people defending laws? Kind of like all happens internally. They have a whole way that they fucking handle it with the police and the coroners. Like I remember, I remember from time to time TV shows kind of giving examples. Some of them were like true crime shows or whatever. And I seem to remember certain scenarios being demonstrated. I can't recall any of it now, though. All right. Arzera once found Ar Yehuda in the bath. He, Ar Yehuda, ordered his servant in the Hebrew-Aramaic tongue, "Bring me the comb, hand me the soap, open your mouths, and exhale the warm air from within you. Drink of the warm water of the bath." Said Arzera, "If I had not come but to hear this, it were enough for me." Hand me the soap, open your mouths, and exhale the warm air from within you. Drink of the warm water of the bath. Drink warm bath water. And you would do this, you would make someone do this. Exhale, exhale. Ha ha. This makes me and you made me think of Firestarter by Prodigy. Inhale, exhale, you're the victim. But drink of the water of the bath. So, hold on. It is correct that he ordered things in the Hebrew language as private affairs may be said in the same language. The same is with the second order, for Samuel said that heat from without drives out heat from within. But what good is in the order, drink of the water of the bath, it is also correct, as we have learned in the following Boretha. If one washed himself with warm water and did not drink of it, he is like an oven that was heated from without, but not from within. Gee, yeah, dude, like, you drinking your stank water. Holy shit. That is so unsanitary. Like, that's not making you sit. That can't be clean. That what? Like you're dirty? This is on Sabbath or Hanukkah? That's bad enough anytime. Doing this every week? This isn't every day, is it? I mean, exactly how specific are these circumstances? You go read it back. I don't care to go back over that. That's just crazy nuts. They made that explicitly clear. Drink your own fucking bathwater. Mishnah 4. The hot water contained in a moulier, a cauldron, the live coals of which have been cleared away before the Sabbath set in, may be used on the Sabbath, but the hot water contained in an antiki, another kind of kettle, even if cleared of live coals, is not to be used on the Sabbath. And then Gemara. What is a mouliar? A Boretha states it is a vessel provided with an attachment for live coals, used for keeping water. As for an antiki, Rabbah says it is a bekiri, a very similar to a mouliar, but of heavier construction and continually in use. Ar Nahman B. Atziak says it is a bedud, a large kettle with an attachment underneath it for live coals. There is a Boreitha in support of the opinion of our Nahman, the hot water in Antiki, even if the coals thereof are cleared away or damped, is not permitted to be used, for the heavy bottom keeps the heat. Okay. So I'm going to pause at Mishnah 5. We're going to take another break. I'm going to figure out where I want to bring things to an end, and I got to pick a song. Let me look over here. What we got? Looking at different bands in the sidebar of my YouTube. Yeah, maybe that one. It's kind of fun. I'm gonna try this. I have no idea exactly what it is. It's called Infernal Diatribe. Seshupal Bod. I'm going with this. This sounds like it's semi. was a very interesting riffage, and that was quite a unique way they ended the song. Kind of like the way they ended the song. They tried something rhythmically different than the rest of the song, kind of interesting, but also fit in. That's kind of cool. That was Infernal Diatribe with Shishapul Pod. They're like a Georgian Russian thing. All right. So, yeah, and As You Wish Inconceivable was asking me about the argumentative wisdom and pagan stuff. Yeah. If you go through the mythos in the Norse mythos, right? There's all sorts of things. Some of them are meant to be very, very entertaining. Some of them are meant to be, they're all meant to be educational, right? Some of them are more funny, and some of them are more meant to be dramatic, so on and so forth, right? But Thor arguing with the dwarf Alvis is a big one. Alvis Mall. There's Lucasenna is a classic, which is Loki trolling the entire court of Asgard. I am trying to remember which one it is. One of Thor's journeys, I can't remember the name of it. One of Thor's journeys involves Odin in disguise harassing him as a ferryman on the other side of the river, Thor's frustrated because he had at this particular time lost his goats and was traveling on foot with the two Jotun children in his servitude. And he's having an argument with his father, but he doesn't know that it's his father. So that one's really great. What's his name? Fafnir? No. Lothnir? There's this king of the Jotuns. And this was the Jotun that Odin he's like the Ice Jotun that Odin had to defeat. And this Ice Jotun, he had a lot of powers himself. He had a lot of knowledge himself. And Odin went to in disguise and had a game of wits with him in disguise, probing him for information while spying on him to make sure that he wasn't planning to attack Midgard or Asgard again. And that's a really good one. All right. The Lay of Greybeard, right. Yeah. Harbarthield. Yeah. There you go. That'll do it. That's one of them. Yep. Anyway, let's get back to the thing. Mission 5. Into a kettle, the hot water of which has been split out and which has been removed from the fire. Cold water is not permitted to be poured for the purpose of heating, but it is permitted to be poured it is permitted to pour water into the kettle or into a cup for the purpose of making such water lukewarm. Once again, it's the lukewarm water factor. I was right. Gemara, how is this to be understood? Said Abi, it means thus, into a kettle, the fire of which has been removed, which still contains hot water. A small quantity of water may not be poured for the purpose of warming, but a large quantity to make the hot water lukewarm is, however, permitted. Into a kettle, the hot water of which has been entirely removed, no cold water at all may be poured because it tempers the vessel And it is in accordance with Aryahuda, who holds that an act which pleases one, if done even unintentionally, is prohibited. Do you get to take your mask off when you sit down at the restaurant during COVID? Or did you have to arbitrarily keep it on and take bites? Or did you get to take it off when you stood up? Or were you only allowed to take it off once you were alone in the bathroom? It was like living under the Talmud in the pandemic, because everybody every little collective organization of assholes just made up their own fucking rules. Right? The pandemic and the laws of the Talmud are equally insane. One second. Let me double check before I continue, because that was the last break. I want to double check how we are on time. Good. We'll try to keep it around 3 hours. So we got 15 minutes. I'll get it done in maybe 12. Said Rab, even the above-mentioned large quantity is allowed only to make the water lukewarm, but not such a quantity as will entirely neutralize the hot water and tend to temper the vessel. Samuel, however, permits any quantity. Shall we assume that Samuel is in accordance with Ar Simeon, who opposes the above theory of Ar Yehuda, but did he not say that it is permitted to extinguish live dross on public ground to prevent injury, but not charcoal? And if he agrees with Ar Simeon, this also should be permitted as regards labor tending to the accomplishment of a work prohibited on the Sabbath. He holds with Ar Simeon, but as to the performance of labor, not for its own sake, he sides with Ar Yehuda, said Ar Rabina, since it is permitted to perform labor prohibited by rabbinical law in order to prevent injury. It is also permitted to remove thorns from public ground, little by little in distances of less than 4 ells at a time in order to prevent injury, but upon unclaimed ground it may be done in greater distances. All right. Every strange little particularity, every little facet of your life, like this, right? Man. Like I said, we'll find out when we get out of this whole Sabbath section. But it is permitted, etc. The rabbis taught one may pour hot water upon cold, but not cold upon hot water. Like, if these are, like, this is the problem, like, they're doing their best to do God's law as government law, and it's just like, and the problem is that no one is sitting there saying that God's law was only necessary when we had government then, right? Like, do all these laws like imagine if you stopped making laws. Like, imagine if America kept its laws that it established in the 19th century and never evolved those laws. So anyway, said Arhuna B. Joshua, I observed that Rabbah was not scrupulous with regard to the use of vessels, because Arhaya said, one may put a pitcher of water into a bucket of water. It makes no difference whether it be hot water into cold or vice versa. Said Arhuna to Arashi, perhaps this was a different case altogether, it being that there was a vessel within a vessel. But the latter reported it says to empty as it was taught. It is permitted to empty out a pitcher of water into a bucket of water, be it either warm water into cold or vice versa. Mishnah 6. In a saucepan or pot that was removed from the fire, no spices shall be put after dusk on Friday, but spices may be put into a plate or a bowl. Yahuda is of the opinion that spices may be put in all vessels or cooking utensils except in such as contain vinegar or fish brine. Gemara. The schoolmen propounded the following question. Does Yahuda refer to the first part of the Mishnah, which is lenient, or does he refer to the latter part, which is rigorous? Come and hear. We have learned in a Boretha that Yehuda says, one may put spices into all saucepans and cooking pots except such as contains vinegar and fish brine. You have to imagine, is all of this, at least as far as they know, just about making sure that their soul is right in the world? Or is there also an understanding of a greater purpose that this all serves? Or do they only know that God only likes it when government does what the Babylonians did? Ar-Yosef was about to say that salt comes under the same ruling as spices, because in his opinion, salt becomes cooked in a first vessel, i.e. the vessel used for cooking, but not in a second vessel. Said Abai to him, Arhaya distinctly taught that salt does not come under the ruling applicable to spices, because it does not become cooked even in a first vessel. This is corroborated by Arnahaman, who said there is a saying that the dissolving of salt requires thorough boiling, the same as beef. Like these laws, maybe there was only one real reason for these laws back in the day. It was their best understanding of health and hygiene somehow with the fucking bathwater thing, but it was simply the law, so that way you wouldn't have some sort of famine, some sort of plague, some sort of this, some sort of that. Right? Which was necessary context for being there in that time. And only thing God actually wanted you to do was to not be in a state of disease, and men were trying to make God happy by keeping us out of a state of disease. And even though this does not accomplish that, this is based on inferior science, just like you being vaccinated has not prevented you from getting anything. It is not permitted to place a vessel under a lamp so that the oil of the lamp drip into it. If a vessel was placed under a lamp before the Sabbath set in, it may remain there. But the use of such oil on the same Sabbath is not permitted, as it was not previously prepared. The Gemara said, Arhista, although it was said that the placing of a vessel under a hen, laying on a sloping ground to receive the egg, is forbidden, yet to cover the egg so as to prevent it from being crushed is permitted. So goddamn, they can't even have the hen lay the fucking egg right. Like, it has to be laid in a particular place and way. That's ridiculous, right? These are bureaucratic, arbitrary fucking rules that are just there to be like, if you're working for the company in the circumstances of its time, it's like, it's not for you in your fucking house keeping up your traditions that honor God. This is about straight up, like, keeping your government alive, right? And somehow keeping all of these things alive, once you have your government reestablished properly, is supposed to pull off some divine promise that everybody in the world is going to thank you for fulfilling. Thank you, Jews, for making this happen for us. You guys are the best at ruling the world. We should all follow your example. Everybody is horrified with this nonsense. All right. Abaya objected to this, stating, "We're not taught in the Mishnah that it is permitted to place a vessel under a lamp in order to take up the dropping sparks. This seldom occurs and therefore it is permitted." He was told that the dropping of sparks by a lamp is also of frequent occurrence. So the dropping of sparks is to be governed the same way an egg, a hen lays a fucking egg? Are you crazy? One's a living animal with its own fucking habits, and the other is an object that you don't have enough animism to tap into the consciousness of, that you are just fucking using as your candlestick, for fuck's sake. Yosef, commenting on the statement of Arhista, gave another version, that the vessel placed under a hen to receive an egg is made useless for that same Sabbath. Oh, and then this also makes the hen example almost irrelevant, apparently. Abaya raised the same objection, intending to prove by it that the vessel placed under a lamp is also made useless on that same Sabbath, and Arhuna B. Aryashua answered, "Sparks have nothing substantial about them, therefore the vessel containing them is not made useless on the same Sabbath." These people have no idea what the hell they're trying to preserve. All right, I think I'm satisfied. This has been about 3 hours tonight. I'm good. I want to stop talking. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to this crazy version of the mud. I ought to just call it the mud. I'm taking a quick peek. I just opened the tab on this end. I want to scroll down a bit. Look at that. Is that are those all footnotes? That could be a long laundry list of footnotes. Ooh, I think it is. Hold on a second. I'm getting an idea of where we are. And, okay, I want to scroll down. Where were we? We're on 91. Okay. I'm just taking a quick peek here at the end, because it looks like we are not far off. Are these not? No, they're not footnotes, but okay. Well, okay, so 191. Okay, so we've got 13. We got 13 pages to chapter 5. Which Oh, wait a minute. Wasn't there a chapter 4? Because I could have sworn... Okay, these are footnotes. Those are very small. I think they forgot to label... No, there's... No, that's chapter 4. Why is that chapter 4? And then what's this then? Oh, no, chapter 5. Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay, so chapter 4... Sorry, chapter 4 crosses over a page. Okay, so there are 7 pages left in this chapter. And then, so that might be the next show. That might be tomorrow's show. And then from 99 to 104. So then there's 5 pages. Basically on the chapter after that. And then there's, yeah. Maybe even less because of footnotes. Either way, we're doing pretty good here. So let me put this back on page 91 where we were, so that way when I open it, it remembers. All right, so that's where we're at. That's the update. That's the show. Thank you guys so much. And I'll see you tomorrow. And do yourselves a favor. Keep an eye on the Iranian Revolution going on right now. It's kind of exciting. All right, I'll catch you later.